In the last 20 years, the lifestyle of Japanese women has changed so much. Over the last 10 years, the percentage of career women has increased enormously, while those who are housewives have gradually become a minority. In my parents' generation, everyone got married in their 20s, had their own family, and that's when the wives stopped working. And then, later on, there was the question of whether to stay as a housewife or continue their career at work. Now we live a completely different lifestyle, but we still only have that model of a woman that we had in the past. So what are the ways we can live today? We have no points of reference that can tell us anything.
When I came to Japan 6 years ago, I often travelled around the city by train. Occasionally, I'd hear an announcement that I didn't understand, but it was translated as human accident. And I've heard this announcement very often. Then I realised that it was a way of not saying suicide.
Because of the coronavirus, the suicide rate among women has increased exponentially. It brought out in a very clear way a problem that previously was only under the surface.
In November 2020, Kyoko came to visit me.
I was studying counselling, and I had realised how much women really need psychological support. I talked about all this with Mitty and realised that she was thinking the very same things.
Talking things over, we both wanted to do something about this social problem. And that's where the CommuniHeart project began.
When I first heard from Mitty and Kyoko about the idea for the CommuniHeart project, I thought, it's right to do it. We really must do it. The reason is that in my contacts with young people, I realise that they don't have much self-esteem, they're not able to assert themselves, and they experience many difficulties in life.
The whole point of the CommuniHeart project is to connect, to unite the inner part of ourselves with the part which we then externalise. This is very important for us. In fact, in the name CommuniHeart, the word communi stands for outward communication, transmission, going outside of yourself, whereas the word heart stands for the whole inner world. And we think that this reciprocal communion between inside and outside is very important. Moreover, in the name CommuniHeart, the word communi also stands for community, because we have tried to achieve this kind of unity between the outside and the inside of oneself through the community.
This is an entirely new project. Until now, there's never been a project like this among the activities of the youth section at the WCRB. Hearing about it, I realise it's a pioneering project which addresses challenges typical to young people.
There are 6 of us who are staff at the CommuniHeart project. We are of different ages and religions.
Collaborating with people of other religions is an affirmation that calls for a great effort to achieve it. That's why the fruits were so plentiful.
I became a nun at the age of 14, but I became head of the Ishiyama temple only last year. In Japan, it is very rare for a young woman like me to be head of such a large temple. In Japan, usually only men over the age of 60 become chief priests of temples. There are no other women in my position, so I have no one to compare myself with, to share my insecurities with, or to share my joys with. For me, a wonderful treasure of the CommuniHeart project was being able to work towards a single goal with other women of my own generation. We do not have the same roles, but it has been a great joy for me to be able to talk to people who have a religious belief, who practice it, and want to do something for others.
I didn't think the strength of a community could be such a wonderful thing. It taught me to believe in the power of community.
For me, it was an opportunity to face up to my emotions.
We invited a group of 20 girls to the first CommuniHeart project program.
We talked about 5 subjects: life and happiness, relationships, communication, women in society, and last of all, pain.
An important feature of CommuniHeart is that the 6 of us who are staff members are not teachers. And it's because we are not teachers that we can look at the various aspects of life together with the participants. We want to be more like hostesses on an aeroplane, always watching over the passengers and taking care of them. That is why we chose the theme of air travel.
I have never talked about my feelings with other people, but here I felt comfortable about sharing these things. We talked about what to do when there are differences of opinion with someone. I got married after the project, and when there was a conflict with my husband, I stopped and remembered what I had learned. Then I realized there were differences between us. So I thought about how to be there for him and acted accordingly.
I think this program is of interest not only for the Sustainable Development Goals, but also for the United Nations, for example, UN Women, because they deal with the quality of life of women, which compared to that of men is much harder. Then there are inequalities in other fields. In education, the number of women who have access to schools compared to males is almost half. There's violence against women. Been reported internationally that about 35% of women in the world have experienced some form of violence by men. The UN and the WCRP have a joint network in over 90 countries. By strengthening our cooperation in these countries, we would like to develop this program internationally. I think this kind of thing is also part of the WCRP's mission.
I think the reason the project is successful is because we believe in each other. It's about trusting each other. And this believing in each other came about because each shared all the pain there had been in her life, in the way she was raised and lived her life.